ever since the H-1B visa scandal, which Elon Musk seems to have taken a 180 now, and he's saying that, all right, well, maybe the system could use a little bit of revision. But ever since that scandal, I've seen the word woke right being used. And I find it fascinating because up until a couple of months ago, a lot of leftists were very confused. Like, they generally didn't understand what the word woke means. We go around asking questions, but what is woke? How do you define woke? And now apparently not only do they know what it means, but they realize it's something so disgusting, so vile, that they need to label their opponents with it, right? So they created the word woke right. And so I wanted to know what it is because just like the leftists, I'm a seeker of knowledge. I was thirsting for information, going around like, what is woke right? How do you define woke right? But unlike the leftists, I actually know how to use AI. And so I went on Grok and I asked it to define it. Now, Grok actually goes on the entire Twitter and searches for the information to compile it. It's like a search engine, basically. And it's very helpful because there's a lot of people with different interpretations of what it means, so the AI tried its best to summarize it in an easily digestible format. Now, again, if you happen to know a different definition, please let me know in the comment section. But I think like what it came up with, and I think it's pretty accurate to how people define the woke right as being. So let's look at the categories. Identity politics and victimhood is the first one. The woke right is seen by some as engaging in identity politics similar to the left, but with a focus on different groups. For instance, they might emphasize the victimhood of certain groups like white Christians or straight individuals, claiming that they face systemic discrimination or cultural marginalization. This mirrors the left focus on marginalized groups from a different ideological perspective. Okay, I mean, let's pick a point in time. Well, let's pick a event of origin, the 90s, the early 2000s, 2010, I don't care, like pick a point. And then let's look at what happened in society. You have certain cultural critics and university professors saying that America is systemically racist. We live in a rape culture, the patriarchy. And so we need to change how people think. We need to change entertainment. We need to police speech. We want that every single TV show to have at least one gay character. We're fine with race swapping. Like, we can now have Ariel that's black. In fact, it should be mandatory that everything has at least one gender or race swap. Video games, let's have inclusivity. Let's make women to look like men in wigs. Let's promote chess cards. Let's talk about how the male gaze is evil and there's something pathologically wrong with you if you enjoy watching a poster of a lewd woman on a calendar or something. And apparently that catches on, right? Like, a lot of corporations incorporate these criticisms, and now you see it everywhere. Okay, people at one point, they have enough. They're like, all right, well, all this fat acceptance in media, all of this stuff is harmful. We don't like it. We want to go back to the point of origin. We want to go back to the 2010. We want to go back to the 90s or whatever point of origin you picked. Well, now if they do that and they start, like, how can they do that? They start criticizing the commercials, right? Like, they're like, why are you adding another man with a wig in our video game? Why are you yet again having a commercial where you're promoting fat acceptance rather than fitness? Why are you constantly doing these things, right? Well, when they do that, you call them woke right. Well, through which process do you want to revert the change that was made? Or are you saying, like, the changes should never be reverted? Like, it's fine when they criticized it, but now that the criticism has been done, and now that the situation is what it is, it has to continue indefinitely. Like through which method would you want conservatives to do what the name says, conserve? Like, if they're trying to conserve the past, if they're trying to conserve the culture that was in the early 2000s or 2010 or whatever, you know, when they were born and they were young, and they want to revert to that time, through which process, through which method would you consider that it would be acceptable for them to do so? Criticism of liberalism. some define the woke right as those who critique the liberal consensus, arguing that traditional liberal values have led to the marginalization of specific identity groups, like straight white men, which they see as a form of reverse discrimination. This perspective often sees liberalism as having failed these groups, advocating for a return to or reevaluation of traditional values or structures. Well, what if the groups are genuinely oppressed? I don't know, like, oppression is a word that I would probably not use. I think it's a communist word. But if you go to a corporation and you're forced to attend a seminar where they tell you that America was founded on slavery, and you have like cisgender, heteronormative, systemic oppression of everyone else, and white people have privilege, and blah, 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 blah. And you notice that, like, you didn't do anything. Like, you're just a guy that wants to work, and you're being told about the horror of your ancestors and what the fuck they did like 400 years ago. And you didn't partake in that, you may not even condone it, but you're constantly lectured, and you notice that other demographics don't get the same shit. They don't get the same lecture. You notice that people in China don't have to deal with this shit. Like, why are you supposed to deal with it, right? And then you hear about companies bragging, okay, well, we hired more non-white people today. And you have like all the activists and on Twitter actually bragging about it and saying it's a good thing. So, if you want to criticize this phenomenon, how can you do it without being woke right? Like, seriously, if there is a pattern, if there is a way that you can criticize this, like if someone that genuinely feels as if he is marginalized because of what happens in his life, how can he do it? The thing that I would say is a major difference is that the woke left was criticizing past injustices, while the people today are criticizing current day injustices. The people on the left weren't offering concrete solutions. Like, they weren't saying, okay, change this legislation and we reach equality. Like, just pass this bill, pass this law, and we're going to finally achieve equality. No, they were basically saying that it's an ongoing process. We need to police speech. We need to do this and this and that. Well, I see the majority of people on the right. I mean, I'm probably sure there are some differences, but the majority of the people on the right, they actually say exactly what they want. And they point out to exactly what type of legislation has to be changed for them in order to be happy. And they're pointing out current injustices with receipts. They're basically saying, look, Walt Disney is talking about promoting, and this is their words, not mine, an LGBT agenda, and going against the Floridian legislative. Like, why is this company being funded and giving perks and privileges from our taxpayer money? I mean, they can do it, right? Like, they're free to do it, but why do they use our taxpayer money? Why are they getting privileges compared to other companies? These are legit questions. Like, okay, well, this is the problem. This is what we see as the issue. Like, a company thinks that they are going to do politics with our cash, and it's supposed to be an entertainment company, so they're against the Florida legislative. Like, they're going super political at this point. They can have the presidential debates next to Mickey Mouse. Haha. And so, like, the solution is stop funding the company and pressure the government to find ways so that they're being treated exactly the same like any other company. Why do they get all these privileges and perks? And they think that America is systemically racist. Like, okay, so America is systemically racist, but it's a good racism when it gives you the privileges. It's a bad, right? Use of language and strategy. The term is sometimes used pejoratively to criticize those on the right who accept tactics or rhetoric of the woke right, like employing identity politics or grievance narratives for political gain. This includes phrases or strategies that are seen mirroring those on the left. I actually did see this, but I don't think like it's something particular to the woke left. I think like subversion existed way before critical race theory. But one example would be with certain right-wingers on YouTube, Christians. right? They decided to have a war on pornography. Like those of you that follow my Twitter know who I'm talking about. Some of them are big content creators, others insignificant. I'm not going to go into names because it will distract from the purpose of the video. But it is an example of what they're doing, right? So they redefine what pornography means to the point where anything that could potentially arouse is now considered porn. So like even a fully dressed woman, even a fully dressed Baywatch actress, right? Like she's playing Baywatch, she's dressed in a swimsuit. She doesn't do anything pornographic, but like she just exists. They would consider that porn because it titillates the senses. I have seen people that are so out of normal thinking that the Sistine Chapel, because it has naked people, right? They think that's pornographic. They didn't know that the picture is from the Sistine Chapel, but like, again, those who follow my Twitter know exactly what I'm talking about. You have the receipts there. And so what they're doing is like they're trying to subvert language. Like they're using a word which has a meaning to the general population, and that is pornography. Like everyone thinks of something, but their definition is completely watered down and different in order to subvert, to be manipulative. I don't think that this is something particularly to the woke left. It is a tactic that the left was using, and it is something that I will call out every single time I see it, because definitions actually matter. And so when people start doing these tricks, doing these shenanigans, it means that they don't believe the problem is as bad as they claim to be. Because if the problem was genuinely as bad as they claim to be, they didn't have to do these tactics. They didn't have to water down definitions. They didn't have to, because they have nothing to complain. And so they need to like complain about video games like The First Descendant. But since there's nothing there, they need to convince people that it's pornography, even though the game is on the Apple phone. And it's also greenlit by the CCP, right? But they gotta manipulate the public. They gotta make people think that maybe there is porn in it. And so, yeah, like it is a subversive tactic. But I haven't seen it used anywhere else besides in the gaming and the entertainment world. Like, if you can tell me a right-winger that uses subversive language in politics, they don't really have to, because they have, like, genuine grievances that they bitch about. Like, there's no point in trying to use this tactic if you actually have concrete reasons to complain. Like, if you're let's go back in time, right? If you're a black person, you're a slave on a plantation, you don't need to try to use subversive language because you generally have what to complain about. You're working on a plantation and you're not free. So, like, you can just focus on that. You don't have to change definitions. You don't have to, like, no, you're literally being oppressed, right? And so, like, I haven't seen people water down definitions outside of the entertainment field. But, again, could happen. Like, if the right manages to achieve certain victories and a lot of the grievances that they have are being addressed, yeah, maybe they will start using subversive language in order to try to manipulate discord. And so here you have, I think he is the man that tried to coin the phrase, James Lindsay. Woke right means you think people in your particular identity group are oppressed and need to band together to your identity group to fight back and take power against enemies. But like throughout history, like sometimes people of a particularly identity group, again, I don't like to use the word oppression, but perhaps that they view that it's being treated unfairly. And as long as they come with concrete solutions and examples and they're saying like, look, in this particular example, yeah, I view that I'm being treated unfairly because no other demographic would be treated the way I'm treated. And these are my solutions. Like, this is what I want implemented in order for things to move forward. I don't think that's what the woke left did that well. Like, the woke left would come and they would say, women on the campus are being abused, 1 in 5. A lot of people would think it's horseshit. Like, that can't be true. Like, you're giving statistics worse than the Congo, right? So, like, the premise was something that people didn't believe. And then it's like, okay, what's the solution? Put me in charge. Put me in charge, allow university professors to conduct investigations as if they're police detectives, like trained in criminology. Let's make it so that only the accusation is enough to ruin a person's life, even if we don't have any evidence to it. And will that make it okay? No, it's an ongoing process. Like, this needs to constantly happen. It's like, okay. Or, with Black Lives Matter and stuff, like, what is their grievance? Historical. Well, do we have a time machine to change history? No. Okay. So what is the solution? Donate to the Democrats. Well, the Democrats won. Have they made it better? Right? Like the thing with the woke, right? They generally have solutions. They may be bad solutions. I'm not saying. But like they're at least saying, all right, well, we want to review the H-1B visas, for instance. Like, we don't like it. Get rid of the program or change it or whatever. Right? It's a concrete solution. Like, this is the problem. This is what needs to be changed. We don't want to tone police people. We're not policing language. We're not trying to get people fired. You know, like oh, this guy is saying something against us. Let's see if we can call his employer and get it fired. If I saw that, I would say, okay, well, they're like the woke left now. But I don't see it. They just have like different political takes. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, they mostly want to revert the culture and the time period to where it was when they grew up. Whether they grew up in the 90s, whether they grew up in the 2000s, whether they grew up in 2010, it doesn't matter. They want to revert time to that. Maybe the things they're suggesting aren't really true. You know, maybe they don't understand how the world was like back then because they see it through rose-tinted glasses, or they were too young to remember all of the problems. They only remember the good things. I don't fucking know. But I don't see it in the way that is being described here. Like, even with the H-1B visa, as an example, they're talking about citizens and non-citizens, right? And so, a black person, a Hispanic, can also be an American citizen. And the right also believes that these people should get privileges over the fact that they're American citizens. Like, citizens should have privileges in their own countries. I don't think this is something that is controversial. Now, regarding the liberal order, I think it depends on how people understand it, but basically, if the neoliberal order is to just pump the wealth out of nations, and it doesn't matter as much damage that it causes, you know, maybe it causes a decrease in living standards for the majority of people, it causes wealth inequality, it causes a lot of homeless people, it causes drugs, crime, it doesn't matter, right? Like, as long as the wealth is being pumped and the GDP goes up, that's what matters. And so the way of viewing the world becomes not as a nation state, but just like a plot of land where economic transactions happen. As I mentioned before, it's not California, it's now Economic Zone 21-C. A lot of people don't agree with this, right? Like, a lot of people may think that, no, a nation should be a home. And so you have like this conflicting worldview. To summarize it, like, maybe some people think that they don't want an economy that also happens to be a nation, but they instead want a nation that also happens to have an economy. And apparently, any type of struggle to achieve this makes them the woke right. Sure, I mean, if you want to put it that way, fine, I guess, but there's like a lot of different ideologies that are going to be under this umbrella. You're going to have libertarians, you're going to have, even people that are on the far right, you're going to have basic bitch MAGAs, like, you're going to have a lot of ideologies that are covered by the umbrella woke right. I don't think that the name itself is going to stick. Like, you're just using it because it's the current thing, right? Like, everyone dislikes woke. But the reason everyone dislikes woke is because it's being stuffed down everyone's throats. Like, you want to watch a baseball game, you see woke shit. You want to watch a TV show, you see woke shit. You want to play a video game, you see woke shit. You want to watch an advertisement, you see woke shit. And so, that's why people dislike the woke. I don't think that, if you want to watch a baseball game and you see Gargura or something, that's the woke right. I don't think if you want to watch a TV show, you're going to see some anime girl that's going to promote a woke right ideology. And so if that doesn't happen, people will not have the same dislike towards it. Now, if you branded this as, social justice classic or piety warriors or something like that, maybe it can stick better, I don't know. But like woke right, sure, use it if you want. I mean, I'm not tone policing people. I'm not going to control language and tell people what words to use or what not. But I don't think, like, from a PR perspective, it's going to stick. Like, if you hired me in order to write you agitation and propaganda against the woke right, I would definitely do it differently. But I'm not telling you for free. Let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.